If you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan and you're waking up this morning feeling doom and gloom and a bit depressed about yesterday's complete embarrassment of a loss to the Carolina Panthers, well, you're in the right place because we're going to be talking about some controversy that is happening with the Raiders right now with Antonio Pierce and the entire Raiders organization because of a statement that Antonio Pierce made in last night's presser. Plus, we're going to be talking about a few key players that give a glimmer of hope to the Raiders that are going to make you feel better moving forward. So if you're feeling all doom and gloom, stay tuned. We're going to address all of the controversy, and then we're going to give you some positive news. All that and more on today's episode of the Raider D Podcast. All right, Raiders and Raiderettes, the Raider Nation was up in arms yesterday about that embarrassment of a performance in our home opener. A home opener where the Raiders should have dominated one of the worst teams in the NFL. And as I discussed in my previous video, this is not to take anything away from the Red Rocket. He still has that juice, and showing that this former Pro Bowl quarterback, a guy who had a lot of success in the NFL, has something left in the tank, and he absolutely unleashed it on our Raiders defense. What happened yesterday to our pass rush? What happened yesterday to our defensive line? What happened to our secondary? Well, if you listen to what Antonio Pierce said, we played a lot of man cover, 2 high safeties with a lot of zone play. And the reason why they do this is because they keep everything in front of them. So they're able to watch the quarterback, and they're not dependent on a single corner being able to make sure that he's able to stick to his guy like glue. What happens when you play man is you have to have shut down corners. If you don't, then they're susceptible to getting beat by the wide receivers putting on a move on them. And this is what happened yesterday. Jacorian Bennett started the game out playing well, but as the game went on, Jacorian Bennett's weaknesses started to show up where he was starting to get abused by Carolina's wide receivers. The same thing also happened to Jack Jones, Trayvon Merrick, as well as Marcus Epps. Now, Marcus Epps probably played one of the best games that he's played in quite some time. Unfortunately, he ended up messing up his knee, and we'll have to find out what's going to happen with that. But the defensive line is really where the concern is right now. Christian Wilkins was not able to put on any pressure or get off of any of his blocks. Max Crosby was out there hobbled and still playing and unable to be really effective. Listen, Andy Dalton was able to sit in the pocket, and you can't allow any quarterback in the NFL, let alone a good one, a former Pro Bowler, to sit on the hash and just throw the ball at will. With zero pressure on the quarterback, no secondary is going to be able to hold down their man for that long. Andy Dalton was holding the ball a good 3-4 seconds in the pocket before he would unleash it in the second half of the game.
They still got that one timeout left in their back.
Nobody's getting to the quarterback. So they started out the game throwing these little short passes, dink and dunks, getting the ball out of Andy Dalton's hand, within 1.5 seconds. And then they realized, hey, they can't beat our offensive line. Let's call some deep plays. And that's exactly what they started to do. And our secondary started to falter because of that. So here's the keys moving forward. Christian Wilkins absolutely needs to play better than what he did yesterday. I don't know what his issue was, but he was unable to be effective whatsoever. Charles Snowden, Janarius Robinson, Tyree Wilson, not the answer. Not the answer whatsoever opposite of Max Crosby. The Raiders need to address this immediately. Now, I have put out a video stating that the Raiders should work a deal with Haason Reddick right now. Haason Reddick is holding out on the Jets. He's requested a trade. And yes, he's going to be expensive. And yes, he is a risk that you may put in that money and he may not pan out. He may end up being a diva and want more money next year. But you know what? We have zero answer opposite of Max Crosby. And so, in my opinion, it's absolutely worth the risk to go out and grab Haason Reddick, who is a proven Pro Bowl quarterback hunter. If you put him on the defensive line opposite of Max Crosby, offensive coordinators are going to have a difficult time figuring out how they're going to contain these two impressive quarterback pass rushers. And that will absolutely boost this defensive line play, and it should free up Christian Wilkins to be able to do what he does, which is being a bowling ball and a wrecking ball in that defensive line. If you guys think that the Raiders should absolutely go and make some type of deal, whatever it may be, with the New York Jets to get Hassan Reddick, drop a comment down below. Now let's talk about the controversy that is going on with Coach Antonio Pierce and something that he said in the presser. If you haven't heard it yet, here it is right here.
We got our ass whooped. Scheme wasn't good enough. The design of the plays wasn't good enough today. I think there was definitely some individuals that made business decisions, and we'll make business decisions going forward as well.
So somebody is in the doghouse. Somebody is possibly on the trade market right now within the Raiders organization, and most probably it's going to be a player that he is talking about, maybe a couple of players. But somebody is absolutely in the doghouse. Somebody caught the ire of Coach Antonio Pierce. Now, I know that there's been some speculation that the ire may be aimed at Luke Getsy, and I think that that is also true, but you can't really trade Luke Getsy, and I don't think that they're going to fire Luke Getsy after week 3. If Luke Getsy gets fired, it will be at the end of the year. Possibly, if we have no hope of making the playoffs, they would fire Luke Getsy maybe by week 11 or 12. But don't look for Luke Getsy to be losing his job yet, even though we're all calling for it because his call playing absolutely stinks. However, with that being said, I do have to say one thing. Antonio Pierce seems to be the one pushing this run the ball nonsense. And I'm not sure that that's what Luke Getsy wants to do. Maybe that is. But in every single presser, it is Coach Antonio Pierce saying that we need to establish our identity as a run-first team. Well, we don't have the personnel to be a run-first team. We don't have a $200 million offensive line and a $20 million a year Pro Bowl running back. If that's the type of team that you want to be, then you need to invest in the personnel to do that. And Andre James is not that guy. Cody Whitehair, not that guy. Dylan Parham, not that guy. Thayer Munford, not that guy. And we're going to get into some of the positives, but those are the negatives right now. The offensive line absolutely stinks for what Antonio Pierce wants this team to be. And Antonio Pierce was asked point blank, should the Raiders simply abandon the run-first strategy, since it's not working, and become a pass-first strategy? And his response was, well, we just need to fix it. And fix it, i.e. meaning fix the run game. Look, there's no fixing this run game. It's not going to happen. I don't see how you fix it when you don't have the offensive linemen who can move the pile, who can open up big holes, and you don't have a Pro Bowl style running back. Alexander Madison the pass out of the backfield, but Zamir White is not. Zamir White is an average backup running back. He is not Josh Jacobs. He is not any of the elite running backs in the NFL. At best, he's going to get you 3 yards per carry on average. Not enough to be elite in the NFL, and definitely not enough for the Raiders to establish a culture of being a run-first, hard-hitting, gritty football team. Look, at the end of the day, in every single game in the past 3 weeks, we have come out trying to establish the run, and it has been atrocious. And what happens in the fourth quarter is Luke Getsy opens up the playbook because we're down and we have no choice but to start throwing the ball and going 4 wide out. And what happened every single time we went 4 wide out? We scored touchdowns. Effective. And I don't understand if maybe it's Antonio Pierce is being hard-headed about this, or if it's Luke Getsy's poor play calling. Whatever the issue is, the fingers are definitely being pointed. There are calls already for Antonio Pierce to be fired. There are calls already for Luke Getsy to be fired. There are calls already for Gardner Minshew to be benched, which I agree with. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Antonio Pierce. Everybody can point fingers ever they want, and he can point fingers at whoever he wants. But the buck stops with the head coach. He needs to make the decision. And these are the two key decisions that he needs to make, in my opinion. Drop a comment down below if you disagree or agree. Opinion number 1, Gardner Minshew should never have been QB1 for this team. Reason for that, Aiden O'Connell, when he was put in after Jimmy Garoppolo was benched, he performed so good as a rookie in a very tough situation with not that great of a team that Antonio Pierce was able to get a full-time job as a head coach because he made that decision. That is a decision that he should have stuck with. Because of his changing that decision and going with Gardner Minshew, we are now struggling and this team is in disarray. Just look at what's said by Devontae Adams and Max Crosby.
I mean, it's NFL. If you don't play your best, you're not ready to go. I don't know what to attribute that to. It's a full roster of guys, so we got a lot of people have to look in the mirror. It's a wake-up call, you know what I mean? We got to be better. You don't play complimentary football, you start slow, all those things don't help. Carolina came ready to play. They had to switch a quarterback, and they did a hell of a job. So
didn't convert enough. Run game couldn't get going, and couldn't find the rhythm in the pass game.
Devontae, what do you think the biggest thing holding the offense back is right now?
Rhythm. Got to find the rhythm, find what we are best at, and do that, and just try to be more efficient altogether. If we just keep trying to do things that don't work, then it's going to make it, it's going to kill time and kill opportunities to be great on the field.
Now, they may not be coming straight out and saying that the problem is Gardner Minshew, but James Jones is.
But for me, this is disappointing, right? Because when we come into the facility and we haven't played a game yet, we always say protect home field, win the games at home, and win the games you're supposed to win, right? Gardner Minshew, right, is okay at the quarterback position right now.
James Jones was about to straight up come out and say that Gardner Minshew is not a good quarterback. He paused himself, he stopped himself, and he made it a little bit more palatable to the Raiders organization in his criticism of the starting quarterback of the Raiders. But you could tell what the next words coming out of his mouth were going to be was he's not a good quarterback at all. And I agree with him. Gardner Minshew is not a good quarterback. Gardner Minshew is a good backup. And Aiden O'Connell may not be a good quarterback. He may just be a good backup. But Aiden O'Connell has a larger upside because he's younger and because he has better arm talent. And anybody who says that Gardner Minshew is better because Aiden O'Connell would have got sacked in that game 20 times last night, which I seen the comments in the comment section yesterday for my video, are absolutely wrong, and here's the proof. We were sold on the promise that Gardner Minshew was going to be a playmaker outside the pocket, that Gardner Minshew was going to make big plays, play off platform, and extend plays and help us to drive the ball down the field. But every time Gardner Minshew runs out to his right, it ends up in an incomplete pass. Quarterback. But all a traditional quarterback needs to do is extend the play by 1.2 seconds in order to throw a touchdown. That's it. They don't need to extend the play 7 seconds. They don't need to be Kyler Murray and run around in circles. They just need to extend the play long enough for their receiver to get a sliver of break between them and the defender and then make a good pass under duress. And that's exactly what Aiden O'Connell did last night. And that is exactly why Aiden O'Connell should be the starter of this team. Agree or disagree? Drop a comment down below. Now, the second move that Antonio Pierce needs to make immediately, and again, this is just my opinion. If you agree or disagree, drop a comment. But here it is. He needs to get over this run first, ground and pound mentality that he's trying to force the Raiders to become. The Raiders are a much better team when we go 4 wide out. When we are in a run package, teams are simply stacking the deck on us and they are crushing the run, which then puts us in 3rd and long repeatedly. And when you're in 3rd and long repeatedly, the defense has the advantage. And no offensive team will ever be successful if they are poor when it comes to the stat of 3rd down conversions. Raiders are one of the worst teams in the NFL at 3rd down conversions right now. Why? Because we run on first down and pick up 1 yard. And then we run on second down and pick up 1 yard. And then we are 3rd and 8, and you're relying on Gardner Minshew to make something happen. And he is just simply not that good. Antonio Pierce needs to get over this entire philosophy of trying to force the Raiders into being something that they cannot be simply because we don't have the personnel to do it. If he can get over this and instruct Luke Getsy to start doing more 4 wide, open up that pass game, and let the ball rip down the field, that's going to open up gaps for the run game. Now you have complementary football. Now, I did promise that I would give you guys some glimmers of hope on some players that are really standing out with the Raiders right now. Number 1 is Thayer Munford went down yesterday with an injury, and DJ Glaze, Mr. Delmar himself, the guy that we've all been waiting to see, is this 3rd round draft pick going to be any good? Well, he impressed big time. Yes, technically he did give up a sack, as I mentioned in my previous video, but that sack was more on Aiden O'Connell for holding on to the ball too long. He held his block for a second, and then his blocker was able to get off, and Aiden O'Connell went down. But other than that, DJ Glaze performed admirably yesterday as a rookie right tackle. I think DJ Glaze deserves the shot to become the full-time starter at right tackle. Another glimmer of hope is the fact that we finally got to see a glimpse of JPJ out there at right guard. And JPJ did his job. He wasn't anything fancy. He wasn't anything special. But what he did do is he held his blocks. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. And if in each and every single one of our offensive linemen were simply able to do what they're supposed to do, then we would have a good offensive line. So I think that if we were to see DJ Glaze at right tackle, JPJ at right guard, Andre James at center, and Dylan Parham at left guard, and Colt Miller at left tackle, this offensive line, I think, would be much better. And if we were to go to 4 wide out and start airing the ball out quickly so that the offensive line isn't having to strain themselves trying to run block on first down every single time, and second down, and sometimes third down and long as well, this offensive line, I think, will start to gel, and they'll be better because they are better at pass blocking than they are at run blocking. And this will open up things for the run game as the game continues. The Raiders need to get out to fast starts. They need to put points on the board in the first quarter, in the first drive, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. We need to go into the half with leads and not down. And this is the way to do it. And I think the fact that DJ Glaze and JPJ were able to go out there and do a really good job for being rookies is a glimmer of hope moving forward for this offensive line. Another glimmer of hope is Brock Bowers just simply continues to impress. Week 3, yes, he did not get near as many targets as he did last week. However, when he was targeted, -1 drop, which really wasn't his fault, he absolutely is a stud. He is a beast. When the ball gets in his hands, he's going to pick up extra yards every single time. So if it's 3rd down and 4, you get the ball to your big tight end, and he's going to pick up those first downs. Absolutely loved seeing Brock Bowers continuing it. Obviously, he did have the head-to-head collision. He's going to be in concussion protocol to determine whether or not he'll be fit to play next week. So we'll have to hold our breath for that. But he is just continuing to impress. I think he's going to have a fantastic career in the NFL. And I think if you were to pair him up with Aiden O'Connell with his more accurate arm and quicker decision-making, then he'll have an even bigger year this year. Aiden O'Connell came into the game late in the 4th quarter. And I understand that maybe the Carolina defense wasn't putting on as much pressure as they would have during earlier in the game. However, it is still the NFL, and Aiden O'Connell had to go out and perform he did. His ability to read the defense, change plays, make quick decisions, and get rid of the ball is so much more improved over last season. Last season, the knock on him was that he held on to the ball too long and would get sacked. He really showed yesterday that other than one play, he was getting that ball out quick, and it was coming out snappy. That ball was flying through the air like a bullet. It was so much fun to watch, even after such a disappointing game. So I think that's another glimmer of hope that, look, the kid looks like he's improved. Give him a shot. Let's see what he can do. What else can fail? Because if we move forward with Gardner Minshew, we're going to be a 7-10 team. We're not going to make the playoffs, and we're not going to have a high enough draft capital in order to pick up a Shedeur Sanders or a Carson Beck or any other prominent quarterback in next year's draft. And everybody who's saying that we should wait for Arch Manning, well, that's 2 years away. I don't want to wait 2 years to get a quarterback. Throw AOC in there, and then let's make the decision at the end of the year. But there's no guarantees in football. You could get the number 1 draft pick, and he could turn out to be an absolute bust. Just look at Trey Lance, and now look at Bryce Young. Case proven. It's a risk every single time you draft the quarterback. You don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know. And right now, we do know that other teams who have sold the farm in order to get their franchise quarterback later regretted it. It's not always a guarantee. Drop a comment down below. Let me know how you guys feel about it. And hey, if you got some value out of this, hit that subscribe button. Join the Raider D family. Love each and every one of you. Let's go Raiders.